Hey there, this is Daniel from WP103, and today we have 8 new plugins to check out. The timestamps for each is in the description. And as always, we start from best to worst. And we start with Lineate Poetry Blocks. Under text we have then a new block called Poem, and this adds the poem block, and then we can write our poem like this. I already have an example here, and it looks like that. The poem block itself. Here we have some indent options. We can define what should happen with long lines. We can wrap or scroll them. And in the style tab, we have basically the regular styles. Then there is this stanza block or like group for the poems itself. And then the poem line itself. There are not really any options except for the indent that we can make or not. And here you can see how it looks like with multi-lines. So every line is a line by itself, and we can also indent that or not. We have also the option to add a gap here. We can make it up to 8 ch or as small as 0.5. There is also a native poem block that looks like this. Here we cannot really make an indent and things like that, and there are also no options for line breaks and stuff. So if you're writing poetry on your site, then this is for sure a good option to have this plugin. Another cool feature you have is a little bit hidden here. If you click on the poem, then you have this mobile phone preview where you can see where it is cut off. We can also align the poem here to our liking, and we can export it as an image. And that's pretty nice. So you have different formats, you can change the background. There's no option to change the color of the text, but it just adjusts. If you have a dark color, you have a white text, and if you have a bright color, it gives you a dark text. So one less thing to worry about. Then you can create the image, and you can already set it as featured image, or you can download it. And that's pretty much it about Lineate. So the plugin is in version 2.0. It is a free plugin and there is no pro version. What I liked about it, it is great for poetry, and also this poem to image function is really cool, and the plugin itself is very well written. There is not really anything I didn't really like about the plugin. So it does one thing and it does it well. So therefore it gets a 4.9. Next up we have VovaBlocks, marketing and content blocks for Gutenberg. Once activated, we are asked to opt in for updates. We don't do that. And then we have a new menu here with some settings. We can toggle which blocks we want to show. Let's display all of them. We have an about section that gives us a little bit more information about the creator of that plugin. There is a contact us page, and we have a support form that goes to the support forum of the plugin. There is also an upgrade menu that allows us to upgrade to the pro version. In the block editor we have then a few new blocks, that is 9 in total, and also a few pro blocks that we cannot use, but we see what we would get if we have the pro version. So let's look at the free ones. There is an alter box advanced, and you just click in it and then you can edit the text. The image can be replaced on the right hand side, and we can also give some social media links here. In the style tab we have mostly the standard style settings, but also a few unique color settings here where we can customize that a little bit further. We can add a border, for example, and there are some typography options. Then we have a call to action button, and same game here. We have under settings, we have different options where we can customize it a little bit, select another icon and things like that. And in the styles we have some styling options. They're pretty much similar to the first block we looked at. Then the checklist is actually a checklist where we can then toggle these items, and then we see what we checked already from the list. You can add as many items as you want. As far as I could test it, there is no limits on how many items you can add. So you just click on add item and then it adds another item. And here we have basically only the style options. There is no settings tab here. Then there is a countdown timer where we can set the time that we want to count down to. Same game here, a few styling options. Then there is a feature grid. This looks like a grid like that, but if the screen is smaller, then it will collapse into a list. Next up is the table of contents block. Here we can also select if you want to show a title and what the title should be, and the minimum and maximum level that we want to show in the table of contents block. Also, we can activate smooth scrolling to smooth scroll. Then there is a testimonials block. Here we can basically change the ratings in the block settings, and the rest we can edit right here, clicking into the text and change it. That's really nice. I think it's way more comfortable than editing the text like in the sidebar here. So that's a good thing. Then we have a note that we can style as we see fit. There are different icons again to choose from. We can change the background color and icon color and things like that. And last but not least, we have a list with icons, which looks like that. It's a list with icons. And that's basically it. Let's check out the front end very quick. And as we can see, we have our to-do list that we can toggle here. Also, everything looks basically the exact same as in the backend, so that's really good. We have the countdown that counts down, the table of content that has the smooth scrolling, very nice. So yeah, that works. VovaBlocks is in version 1.3.0. It is a free plugin that has a pro version, and you probably want to have the pro version to get some extra blocks and also some unique blocks for that matter. And what I liked about it is that you can activate or deactivate certain blocks, although this menu that belongs basically into the settings menu and not into the main menu. But yeah, it is very intuitive to use, and I especially like that you can just click inside the text of the block and then you can change it there, so there is not a lot of friction, and it has many options to customize the block itself. What I didn't like was it has not really a lot of unique blocks. Many of these blocks you saw already in other block collection plugins and block collection plugins who have more blocks than that, but the blocks it has to offer are very solid and it just works. So it has maybe a little bit too little to offer, but other than that, I think it's a very solid option. Therefore, I give it a 4.6. Next up, we have Hafenstudios Ads. That's Ad Manager, AdSense, and banner ads. A lot of ads here. After activation of the plugin, we get a new main menu here with a few submenus. Let's check out the settings first. And here we can set up the AdSense. We can define the consent cookie name and also the expected cookie value. We can activate or deactivate some statistics. We can tell what happens on uninstalling and also who should have access to it. There's some AI settings basically used to give you ideas about title and content of your ads. There is some newsletter integrations that includes SendFox, MailerLite, and Brevo, as well as MailChimp and Kit. And here on the top we have basically the same menu that we have here on the side. Not really necessary in my opinion, but let's go to the next one. We have a import-export menu that allows us to import and export the settings. There is a split test that is pretty cool actually. Here you can see how different ads perform against each other. So this works only for the HTML block, if I'm not mistaken, or I couldn't set it up in other blocks. Under statistics, we have some statistics about our ads, how many times they are clicked and how many times they are viewed. There is the consent rate for your cookie banner in the pro version, but here we don't have that now. Under templates, we have then a few predefined templates, and under ad blocks, we have then our current ad blocks. So let's add a new one. And we are getting to the templates screen again, and where we can start with a template. So let's choose image banner. And here we have a live preview on the right hand side. We can give it a internal name and we have to give an URL. For some reason, we cannot access the media library here. So we actually have to go into the media library, choose whichever photo we want, copy the URL and add it here. That's a little bit inconvenient. can give it an alt text, also the link target URL, and we can define where we want to show it, either before, after the content, after the second paragraph, or manual via shortcode. We can then activate it, then it will be actually shown, and under advanced we have the corner radius. And we have to give a URL, otherwise it won't work. And there we have it. So to add this ad now, we have to copy the shortcode, and here we can see the shortcode for that. We copy it and then we add it to the shortcode field in the block editor. There is also a block that looks like this. It is called AdJet Ad, and here we can just enter the block ID that we want to show. Again, very inconvenient. Why is there not a drop down that just lets us select the banners we already have? In the front end we have then now our different ads here, and I added a few more of these. So there is this follow us ad block. This is the shortcode now, the one that we created before, and here there is an ad note. We can also customize that. I will show you that later. There is the HTML block. This always changes on reload. There we go. Looking at the other template, here's the follow us template. It looks very similar, and basically you just give the URL and the name of the network that you want to link to, and then under advanced you have the colors that you can choose. So these templates, they give you a few little options, but they're very limited what you can do. If you really want to style it the way you want and also design it freely, then you need to use the HTML block, which looks like that. We have a name, we can then enable it or disable it, and then we just write our HTML code. Here in the preview we see how it looks like, and also we can then say where we want to display it. Here we have a few more options than before. We can also display it as an overlay or as a pop-up. We can center it left, right, or none. When it comes to alignment, there are some margin options, and also we can say where we want to display it. All these options are not available in the regular template for some reason. So in the regular templates, like the image template I showed you before, you can only display it on posts, and you cannot select it to display it on pages and stuff. So also we have a visibility option, and you can show it only to logged out visitors, and also you can add a ad to a certain rotation group. That means every ad that is in this group will be then rotated, and you can see in the split test which one performs the best. Also cool, there is a weight value that we can adjust, and depending on what this value is, this ad will be shown more or less. So if all the ads have like a weight of 100, then they're getting shown equally. And if one has a value of 50 and the other one has a value of 100, then the one with 100 gets basically shown twice as much. We can also schedule the ad itself, and under advanced we have also labeling option. We can show like an advertisement label above. We can set it up so it shows only on pages that have a minimum word count. We can exclude certain pages, we can exclude certain categories, and there are just a lot of options. And again, why is this not in the regular templates, but only in the HTML template? And also, very important, we can serve the ad only when we have a consent cookie that allows us to show this ad. Going back to the templates, there is also a Google AdSense. If you are using Google AdSense, there is a cookie banner itself that we can add here. So we are GDPR compliant, and we have a promotion box and newsletter opt-in, and there are quite a lot of types that help you to get started. And while I was complaining that there are not so many options here, I think the intended use is actually that you fill that out here, and then you click on edit the HTML yourself. And then it basically just adds this HTML code here, and we have all these options from the HTML block. Still, it's a little bit inconvenient, but okay. Then a few templates we only get with the Pro version. So for basic ads, I think this is already a pretty good offering in the free version. If we go on a page, then we don't see any ads. The ads are by default only getting displayed on a post type, and here we can see the ad now in the beginning of the content, and also we have a ad block at the end of the content. And that's basically what we're getting with the Hafenstudios Ads. I tested the version 2.3.1. It is a free plugin. It has a pro version, and I guess you want to have that because it has some interesting templates that you can use. But as always, it is up to you. What I liked about the plugin was that it has the split tests, so you can compare two ads against each other. The AdSense and AI integrations are a nice touch. I think the design of the templates overall is quite nice, and also there are many possibilities with the HTML block. What I didn't like was that there are a lot of options limited to the HTML block only. As I said before, it's probably the intention that you set it up in the template and then convert it to an HTML block. But still, it's a little bit inconvenient, and that's also the theme for the whole plugin. It works, and it is just a little bit inconvenient to set up certain things. Also, there is a repetitive menu in the top, not really needed there. And the missing inconvenient functions like the media selector or a date picker are just things that could be a little bit smoother. Also in the beginning, it was not very clear where the posts are actually shown. If you use the HTML block, then it's quite clear because then you can select if you want to show it on posts or pages or whatever. And also what I didn't like was the reviews are a little bit sus. It has not a lot of downloads, but it has many reviews and only 5 stars. Yeah. But overall, I think the plugin made a pretty good impression, and if you want to run ads on your website, then you might give it a try. Therefore, I give it a 4.5. And it feels like we have no month without any forms plugins, so let's see if this makes sense. Sense forms. We get a new menu once we activate the plugin, and we have the dashboard as a first page here. Here we can see some statistics, that's pretty nice. And also we can see the recent form submissions. On the forms we have a list of the forms. Under entries we have the entries that are made via the forms. Analytics gives us more analytics. And under settings we can set up things like the GDPR compliance and also tracking, as well as reCAPTCHA and spam protection in general. Also, it has some SMTP settings where you can select your email provider and set it up so it gets sent via these settings here. We can change the appearance, basically the brand color, and also the default notification email. And we have a send a test email function. Let's go into the form editor, and we're just gonna create a new form here. And it opens a custom editor where we can give it a title. And there are quite a few fields to choose from. We have everything, the standard fields from text, email, phone, text area, number, and website URL. And then there are some choice forms like drop down, radio button, and checkboxes. Let's add this one. So we just drag and drop wherever we want to have it. And some advanced fields like name, address, date picker, time picker, file upload, and also a hidden field. For the layout, we have some layout fields like heading, divider, custom HTML, and the GDPR agreement. So let's add this one as well. On the right hand side, we have then a few options. These are per field. So if we change the field, we get different options. We can set here the label. We can choose if we want to have first and last in one field, or if we want to have 2 fields. Let's go for 2 fields. We can then change the placeholder and also the label for these fields. We can define if we want to have this as a required field. And there are also some options when it comes to the width of the fields. Another thing that most of the free plugins don't have is a conditional logic. So we can then define when to show this field, basically only show the field when we have like a checkbox clicked, something like that. All these fields have then similar options and some individual options depending on the field. Let's create a form, and with the preview button, we get a preview window here of the form. That looks all pretty good. Let's add it to a page. In the block editor, we have a new block that is called Sense Forms. And here we can select a form that we published. We get a little preview here of the form itself, but all the styles are missing and it looks a little bit funky. But if we save it, and here we have these two forms, we can also see the styling options that we have here. I will show you that later a little bit, but this is basically this default look that you're getting when you set it up like that. So let's click that, we get a thank you message or whatever we configure. Because here under settings in the form editor, we have some options to rename the submit button, for example, and also change what should happen when the message is sent. Like now it's on show success message, and we can also redirect it to a specific URL. Usually there is a basic spam protection like a honeypot included. We can also enable the reCAPTCHA version 3 and some different form behavior options, like if we want to use the AJAX submission and if we want to track when a form gets abandoned. Under notifications, we can then enable or disable the notification to the admin, and we can also send a confirmation to the submitter. Here we can do some basic styling or like just use these tags or like these placeholders to add them here. And under style we have a little live preview, and depending on what kind of theme we're selecting here, it gets then updated in the preview. So there are quite a lot of options to style your form. Let's go to the entries, and here we can see we have one unread entry. The preview gives us then the details about the submission, and we can also see some lead attribution and visitor information like the browser we used and things like that, as well as times to submit. So that can give us some nice insights. Also under analytics, you can then see overview, the top pages, the traffic sources, the devices that are used, and also live visitors. And that's basically what SenseForms has to offer. I tested the version 1.7.10. It is a free plugin. It has a pro version. You probably don't need it except when you want to do like multi-step forms or multi-site agency sync and stuff like that. So what I liked about the plugin was it has a quite nice onboarding. It has many options and fields that you can use to customize your form. It has some privacy and tracking options, which are pretty cool. I liked the analytics, and the free tier is very good. Also, the conditional logic for the fields are very good. What I didn't like was that the style options, they were a little bit buggy here and there, and like especially when it comes to the hover state and stuff like that. The performance could be a little bit better, like it includes the styles and scripts unconditionally, so they're always loaded and things like that. So it is pretty solid, but as always for like business critical pages, I would use a plugin that is a little bit more battle tested and a little bit more widely used. But I think it's pretty solid, and therefore I give it a 4.4. Next up is the UnoDock. This is the ultimate mobile navigation plugin. The plugin adds a new menu called UnoDock, and here we have the UnoDock itself and also a contact us that just redirects to the free minus site here, and also an upgrade button that shows us the upgrade options to the pro version. In the UnoDock menu, we have then a few templates we can choose from. Let's select this. And if you have already one set up, then it will ask you if you want to replace it. Basically, let's do that. And here we can then see our menu buttons. We can add a new button, 6 in total. There is a max. And under this button, we have then a few options. We can choose an icon for it. Let's select this one, a button text. What is not limited is the length of the text. So we can add whatever in here. So we can add quite a long text here. Let's see how this looks like. And we can also define where the text position should be. Let's put it above the icon. Then the link type is either a manual URL. We can select an existing page. We also have a search bar that we can show WhatsApp or a call now function that then requires a phone number, and then you can call directly. So let's go for existing page. We can also change the background of the icon itself. We just leave it as the default, and then we can click here on Save Changes to update our changes. It has a checkbox here that usually indicates an autosave feature of some kind, but it doesn't have it. So under appearance, we have some more styling options like the bar background, some color options, and also we can change the dimension of the bar icons and the text. Under behavior, we can change the visibility, like if it should be a sticky bar, if it should hide when you scroll down and things like that. Also, it has a safe area for the iPhone. That's a nice touch here. And also we can hide or show the bar on specific pages. Under maintenance, we have then clear cache and export configuration and things like that. We can also delete all the settings when the plugin is uninstalled. Pretty nice. Under preview, we have then a preview, and we can already see if we have a very long text, then this will not look very good. So at least here you can see that it's probably not ideal if you have such a long text. So let's go back the button and text and change that. And then we have here our sample button. And you can see it already here. We can make it look a little bit funky. We can also click the button to see the animation that will happen. Under documentation, we have some instruction how to use it, install it, and things like that. So it's very nice explained. And also here we see then what we're getting with the Pro version. But let's have a look in the front end, and on the desktop we don't see any change. If we switch to a mobile view, we can then see our bar here, and as you may recall, it looked a little bit different in the preview, like the text was white here and now here it's orange, so the preview is not very accurate. So this is the preview here, and that's what we're getting. But that's basically everything about UnoDock. I tested the version 1.4.5. It is a free plugin and it has a Pro version. What I liked about it, it was very easy to use and it has 8 templates. What I didn't like was that the preview is not always visible. Especially on a large screen, you would have some place for the preview on the right hand side. But the bigger problem is that the preview is not really accurate, and the front end looks then different when it comes to colors and things like that. Like the WhatsApp icon, for example, didn't work for me very well. And also there is no individual style per button, so you cannot say, okay, I would like to have the WhatsApp button like green and all of the other buttons white. That just doesn't work. So it is kind of okay. I think you can make it work, and therefore I give it a 4.0. Next up we have VertiFeed, a vertical media gallery. This plugin adds a new block called VertiFeed Gallery, and it looks like that. Here I have a few videos already selected. You can only select videos, you cannot add pictures or things like that, so it is really made for videos. In the block itself, we can then add more videos via that button here. We can define how the gallery should look like, how many columns we want to have, how the gaps should be, the aspect ratio of the videos, and also the alignment of the gallery itself. There are some player settings like autoplay and loop feed, and also we can display a progress bar and also a mute toggle, and also we can show the branding. In a single video then we can give the video a individual thumbnail, and also we can replace the video and select another one. There is a title that we can choose here and also a description. And that's pretty much it. In the front end, it looks then like that. We can click on a video. It opens that video. The thumbnail didn't match now with the video, but that's something we can set up so it matches. On the mobile, you can just scroll up like with TikTok or Instagram. There's a mute button and also our close button that just closes the videos. And that's pretty much it. VertiFeed is in version 1.0.2. It is a free plugin and there is no Pro version. What I liked was it has a very simple interface and basically just this block that gets added. There is no bloat and it is pretty lightweight. What I didn't like was that the first load can take very long, especially on Firefox for some reason. On Chrome it was working quite well, but on Firefox there were some problems. And also there is no limit in the video size apart from the upload limit that you have in WordPress, but you can include very big videos. That's something that could be a little bit optimized, but otherwise I think it's pretty solid and therefore I give it a 4.3. The next one is eBook Crafter. This creates ebooks from your WordPress content. This one gives us a new menu called eBook Crafter. We have a submenu called All eBooks. We can add a new ebook. We have the ebook library and a settings menu, and we check out the settings first, and here we can set up basically nothing because that's a Pro feature only, but we can see what we're getting with the Pro version. So okay, also templates is only Pro version. In the ebook library, we can then see the ebooks we created already, and we can view or download them. With the add new ebook, we can create a new ebook. Let's do that. And we are in the block editor here. We can give a title, and we can change these taglines and also the book titles here. Or we can just delete that if we don't need it. You can choose a limited selections of blocks like paragraph, heading, and things like that. That's basically the blocks which are compatible with that. What I mean by that, you will see later a little bit. In the table of contents, we have, well, nothing at the moment. So we have then different pages here. This one is a cover page. It allows us to set a cover image. We just leave it like this. Then we have a table of content. This just allows us to select the page type. There is nothing else we can do on that one. Then we have a page type called chapter. Here we can then select the posts we want to display. We can also add a block like a heading. So let's give this a heading of chapter 1, and then we select here posts with a certain taxonomy, or we can just select certain posts that we want to display here. Let's just select here a few pages that we want to display, and then at the end we have another cover. So let's select another cover image like these mountains here. For some reason the resolution is not great here, but that's okay. Let's give this another background color here so we can see that a little bit better. And we change the dimension, the padding a little bit, as well as the border radius. Okay, good enough for us. Let's publish it. In the page settings or the ebook settings, we can then publish it or not. We can move it to the trash. Then we have some book options here. We can set the front cover and the back cover here as well. We can set the color. It's a little bit unclear if this is for all the pages or just for the table of content pages. We can change the typography we want to use. And we can also save it as a template with the Pro. And here under build, we can then build our PDF. So let's do that. We can only choose the DOM PDF and not the Prince PDF. This requires the Pro version, and apparently it has a superior typography and smart page breaks and things like that. But let's see how far we're getting with the free version. We can give it a version, some notes, and then we create the PDF. Under create the PDFs, we see then all the PDFs created, and let's view that. And here we have our cover, very nice. Nothing in the table of contents, nothing in the chapter, and this picture is really pixelated. Not a great start. Let's try it again. So apparently only the H1 headings are getting displayed here. As you can see, the table of content works if we have chapter 1 in the H1, but if we have an H2 or smaller, then it's not gonna be in the table of contents. And once we selected some pages to or posts to display, we have to click on add chapter, otherwise this won't work. And then we can see now our content here. I also would like to add the playground because this has a lot of pictures and formats and stuff like that. So let's save that and we build our PDF once again. Let's have a look. We have our title again. This time the table of content worked pretty well. We have the posts that we included here. That's just chapter and subheading. That's okay. This page should look like that. Then we have the poems. We have the post playground, and there is not a lot. We have 2 empty pages, and then the whole formatting is kind of messed up. So that doesn't really work if you have like any formatting in your pages. That doesn't really work. That's a pity. The gallery is kind of okay, and also the cover block kind of works. So as you can see, if you include any post types, then you have to make sure that they have as little formatting and as little other blocks than these blocks here. These are basically the supported blocks here. If you use anything else, then you get a quite messed up result, especially like with custom blocks. They usually don't render at all, or just the CSS doesn't get rendered and things like that. So I really like the idea of this plugin, but I think the execution is not perfect. Going back into the ebook library, we can now see this books that we created. I think that's quite nice that you can see which books got created when, and then you can also view it or download it. If you open another post or page, then you have a new background color here when this plugin is activated. This is not ideal. It also messes up with the design a little bit, so this is not great. The style should only be in the block editor that is for this specific post type. eBook Crafter is in version 1.0.2. It is a free plugin. It has a pro version, and I would not recommend to get it because the free version works pretty badly, to be honest. What I liked about it, it has a good use of the block editor, so it uses the block editor, a familiar editor already, and just adapts it to its need. But it also kind of messes up the regular block editor for the post and pages type, so that's not ideal. Also, what I liked, it saves multiple versions of the PDFs you created. What I didn't like was that, yeah, it messes up the default editor style, so that should be definitely fixed. And the output is very different from the editor. It feels very unfinished and not very well tested. I really like the idea, but it needs definitely more work, and therefore I give it a rating of 3.4. Last and maybe least, BellePopups. Let's have a look. This is yet another pop-up builder, and if you activate the plugin, we get this onboarding screen here. We can create a campaign or we can view the templates. Let's create a campaign. Here we have then a custom editor. You can then change the top label and the message, and as well as an optional support phrase. Let's just leave the placeholders here. Then we can add a button like book an appointment or make a request or whatever. The preview here is kind of useless. It is really tiny. I cannot really see anything. And also if you have a bigger screen, then it's not really useful because it's so small. In the next section called visual format, we can then define how the look should be. We can have it as a top bar, bottom bar, side note, compact noticed, floating banner, or the centered pop-up. Let's go with the classic. In the next section, we then choose our image. And after we chose the image, we can say that we don't want to have an image. We can place it as a background. We can place it as a top image or as a side image. Let's use the background because that's usually a little bit more challenging when it comes to contrast. And we want to test here things. So yeah, let's do that. We can change the framing, and also if we change it to mobile here, we get a mobile preview instead of the desktop preview. So that's a nice touch, but again, very, very small. So we can darken the image a little bit or lighten it. It depends on which color you have selected. If we choose a white color, for example, then the darken image makes it basically brighter. Yeah, so the wording could be improved here a little bit. So let's make it as white as we can because we have a black text. Let's go on next. Here we can then change the text color and background color and things like that. Background color doesn't do anything because we have a picture here, but we can choose another button color and also button text color. We have a little contrast checker. That's pretty nice, so we can see if we have a good contrast or not. And now we see the button text is not okay, so let's change that, and then we have a good contrast again. We have 3 different corner styles, rounded, straight, or soft, and the same for the button. Let's go with the pill shape, and then we can define where we want to display it, only on the homepage or on specific locations or on the whole website. We can also set the start and end date of the campaign when it appears, if we want to have a little delay. Per default, the status is draft, so let's change that to active so we actually see it. Let's hit save, and we can't because we have to add a text here. Then we click through again, and on the last page here we have a save campaign, and in the top we have a save draft. So let's see what happens if we click on save draft. Is it then still active? Let's reload that. Shows us the warning that some things might not be saved. It looked like it saved everything, but it put it on draft again. So you really have to click on this Save Campaign button here on the last page in order to set it to active. Let's try that. And now we have already an active campaign, so that's why we cannot save it. Okay, fair enough. Let's test the campaign. And we get a preview here again, this time a little bit bigger. We have a summary here when it will be displayed and stuff like that. Let's go back to our campaigns here. So as you can see, we have here our 2 pop-ups. This is the active one that I created last time and the second campaign. So let's pause that and then we activate the second campaign and then it moves the active on top. Not sure if I like that, it's a little bit confusing, but okay. We can see some statistics here, but we actually want to see the campaign now. So let's go to our homepage and we can see the pop-up comes immediately. There is no really animation here and it comes every time because we set it up like that. So that's okay. The contrast with the background image is not super great. It is okay, but we couldn't make it any brighter, so you either have to upload a brighter picture to start with or make some CSS modifications. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for BellePopups. The plugin is in version 0.1.6. It is a free plugin and there is no pro version. What I liked about it, it is really easy to use and to understand. There is a contrast check that is pretty nice and it has 10 starter templates. What I didn't like was that the preview was very small and also there are limited options like this darken image slider that you can just move to a certain point and then it doesn't get darker or brighter anymore. And also the styling options are very limited. You can only choose between these predefined templates, but you cannot move things freely around like you could in the block editor. The plugin doesn't really have anything to offer that other plugins didn't had already. So yeah, and it is most likely AI generated. So yeah, therefore I give it a 3.8. And that's all we have today. Did you like any of the plugins? Will you install some of them? Let me know in the comments below and I catch you in the next one. And don't forget to subscribe and to share this video and do all this social interaction stuff.